Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to Top Tier Talk, another transfer roundup episode, but this time, a couple games to go through as well. So get straight into it. Arsenal, Manchester United, 2-0 to Manchester United. Straight to Chavez, your thoughts on the game and anything you want to share in terms of transfers for United? Because I think, who's the striker again? I keep forgetting his name. Is that
Ireland.
I think Fabrizio gave news on that since last week as well. So off you go.
All right. Always never quite there at Man United. This time, not really for the bad reasons, but for good. It was a friendly match, to be fair. I don't want to look too deep into it because last season we beat Palace and looked like we were about to win the league, and we beat Liverpool as well. So it didn't really turn out that emphatic our season. But yeah, it was good though. To be fair, I think we've been in America less time than Arsenal as well. Because all the excuses are coming out from Arsenal. Arsenal did not look ready. They didn't look as fit. They got run off the park. Our second team came on in the second half, but Arsenal kept a few of their first players on, and we still outplayed them. So I don't know what it is there. Maybe the training camp isn't as intense, but they didn't look up for it as much. Two individual mistakes, and we capitalized on both. There's a few players that played really well. If Arsenal had a player that did what Martinez did, they would have backed him. But it was our player who did it. Martinez put in a rough tackle, which the whole week building up to it, everyone was saying it's an unfriendly friendly. That term was created by Arsenal, the unfriendly friendly. So I don't get why they got a bit upset about that. The only player that actually came out with an injury was Amad Diallo. So yeah, it was good to see. I thought Jadon Sancho looked really good, false nine, but he also looked really good last preseason. So he's really got to live up to it. And the goalkeeper Heaton, just a step up from De Gea to the system we need to play. It's strange. It's so strange, but
After he's gone.
yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, who else? Bruno scored first game as captain. Maguire looked really good. Maybe I don't know about keeping Maguire because we do desperately need money to fund players, but Maguire would definitely be better this year versus last, just because we have a keeper that is more confident on the ball, so Maguire can push up. Our whole line is just further up now because of the goalkeeper, and we haven't even seen Onana yet. So yeah, positive all round. And as for the striker, we're definitely in the market for Højlund. He definitely wants us. He's made it very obvious on social media. I don't think he can make it any more obvious that he wants to join us. So the whole PSG hijacking thing, I don't think that will be an issue in terms of personal because he wants to come to us over PSG. If we get him, I think that will be the end of the transfer market for us in terms of strikers. It will just come down to Amrabat. And if we're absolutely lucky, then a right centre back if Maguire goes. But if I was to predict it from this point onwards, I think we'll get Højlund and I think we'll get Amrabat, and that will be the window done. And it won't be the worst window in the world. I think that people will be annoyed that we don't go for like a Kane or an Mbappe, but that's not easy. And I don't think Kane has the ambition to join Man United, as much as it may seem like it. So yeah, decent all round. And Højlund will fit. He's an athletic monster. He's actually quite like, obviously not as good, but he's quite like Haaland. He's physically very blessed to be as big as he is at his young age. He's not even 20 yet, I don't think. And he just needs training. And he's got raw talent. He's got pace. He's athletic. So yeah, he's basically like Haaland.
So you touched on last week. You're a Kane signing away from winning the league. Is Rasmus Højlund the Kane signing away from winning the league?
No, he's just a young striker coming up.
Okay.
And if he does stay, if he comes, then even if we do sell Martial, apparently he's got interest from Saudi, then I think we'll get another striker, and it might just be like your classic, like how we got who do we get, Igalo, one of them kind of deputy strikers. We might have to get one. Yeah, Taremi would be perfect. He actually fits the way we play as well. That big centre forward that is a target man. He would be perfect. I think we'll end up with that. We are a Kane away from winning the league, I think, but it's too good to be true. I don't. As much as the reports are coming through that we could get Kane, I just don't see how Tottenham would sell Kane for anything under like 150 million because it's directly to a rival.
I think he'll take 100. That's what I know he was reading stuff.
United tax. I think Bayern could get him for 80, to be honest, but it's us. You're selling
you're a rival.
Your best player, who's like a league-defining player, he's definitely like going to bring us up a position or two. To a rival club, it's ridiculous. I would expect them to ask for 150, something like that. Ridiculous. And we won't pay it.
We said this about Spurs before. It's the case of if Spurs lose Kane and they don't get in the right replacements, they could well finish like they could do with Chelsea and finish 12th, 13th. There's nothing stopping them from dropping that far. Because it's not even Kane's goals. It's the fact that he brings a lot of other players into play as well, no matter who's out on the wing.
One other thing I didn't mention: the main man for that game, the main star, was Kobe Manu in a midfield. in which Arsenal, I don't even want to count the amount of money that midfield cost. But across both teams, the guy who cost £0 million was the best player on the pitch. He absolutely ran it. Reminds me of Pogba, but a bit more careful on the ball. Maybe it's because he's a youngster and he's not as obviously risk-taking, but he looks really good. And people are even shouting him for right back because the system that Ten Hag is playing, I don't know if someone noticed the tactical tweaks, but Aaron Wan-Bissaka plays well further up the pitch. And I think that might be just because he's not as good on the ball. So if he was to make an error, it wouldn't be as much of a calamity for him to lose the ball further up the pitch. And it's a tactical tweak. Kobe Minu, he builds from the right-hand side. It's quite cool to see.
Couple things from me, Chavez. Firstly, Mason Mount's performance. I saw Twitter comps of his terrible switch across the play. Can you give an assessment of watching the full game of how Mason Mount played?
Mason Mount, I think he's growing into it. He played better than the other two signings that Arsenal displayed, Rice and Havertz. Off the ball, he's great. He's a runner. And for the philosophy that Ten Hag is, probably the most shocking statement Ten Hag has made in the last, I think, 9 months, is that he said he's going to make Man United the best transition team in the world, which I don't think anyone predicted that would be his philosophy. But quite clearly, he plays into the philosophy of clubs because he went to Ajax and played exactly how they have been built on. And now he's come here and he wants to do it the Man United way, within which Mount is perfect. And I thought Mount was good touches. Obviously, he's not an incredible passer, but neither is Casemiro and neither is Bruno Fernandes. They take risks, they misplace passes. They're all the same in that sense, but off the ball, they're monsters and they're not players you want to come up against. And I think people will slowly start to realize that to be one of the best teams in the world, you don't necessarily need to be a tiki-taka 1,000 passes until you reach the goal type of team. There are other ways of playing football, and Ten Hag's going to implement that. It's basically Fergie back in 2010, though that team. So it's good to see he's buying into the Man United way.
What I heard from the game was you guys were very dirty at some points in the game, not very friendly. I want you to comment on that, and also I want you to comment on Arsenal as well, because you obviously had a good look at Arsenal, their new signings. Do you think there's any cause for concern? I saw Havertz getting a lot of criticism, and Rice was non-existent.
I think Rice will grow into it. He just got played off the park, which he shouldn't as a £105 million player, however much he is. But the thing with Havertz is, and I think you're the one who will agree as a Chelsea fan, Havertz turns up one game and then he doesn't the other. It's when he cares. And that was what Arsenal fans are learning very quickly. He was great one week against a team that is filled with players that have never played with each other, the MLS All-Stars. I don't think that is a good indicator of whether a team is playing well or not. If you play well against an all-star team, because that's a team that's never played with each other. You're better off playing against Reading, and you have a better chance of knowing how good your team is, not against an all-star 11. But Havertz played well in that game, and then he played in Man United, and he was just not there. And I feel like that's what it's going to be like, unless Arteta can, sort him out. He's going to have one good week, one off week, every now and then. You'll never get consistency.
Very inconsistent. He had a good patch, and like a purple patch, and then
consistently inconsistent is what he is.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, besides that, Timber, I thought Timber played well again, kept his own. He's a very good player on the ball. You can tell he's been brought up by Ajax. Same with when you see Martinez play. Also, how Arsenal fans have been going in on Martinez for having short man syndrome, and it's called compensation for being short. You become more aggressive. They have Timber in their team, who's 5'10". So I don't know why the media and no one is focusing on the fact that Timber is basically the same height as Martinez. That's a strange one to me, but yeah.
No, fair enough. You guys won 2-0 as well. I saw the Sancho finish was really good,
and they won on penalties as well. Can't forget penalties.
We're very good at penalties. We're the first team in history, I think, to beat a team twice within 10 minutes. We beat them in the 90 minutes. Then we had a penalty shootout in which Ramsdale, again, he showed his deficiency. I didn't actually know Ramsdale had an issue with penalties.
I told you guys ages ago, the camera keeper. He's not great.
He's actually got a problem. He can't really save penalties. He wasn't even diving for many of them. And then Fabio Vieira. One thing we were saying, actually, at the very start of that penalty shootout, we said if anyone misses the target in the shootout, they're not a Premier League footballer, because there was absolutely no pressure on there. There's no reason. I'm not saying you shouldn't miss, but you shouldn't miss the target. No pressure. It's a friendly game in America, and you're missing the target, Fabio Vieira. That's a bad moment for him, and I don't know what the future holds for him. But Arsenal fans already aren't the biggest fans of him, and now he's done that. It's not looking good for him.
I remember Elliot was giving him a bit of criticism as well. Okay, that covers United very well. Should we move on to Chelsea? And Dan can obviously weigh in with his star boy at Brighton. We did win 4-3. I mean, all of you have probably seen the Mudryk Jackson link-up play. That goal, I've seen it about 100,000 times. I mean, it's the first bit of good play I've seen from Chelsea in probably a year, but absolutely fantastic game. That was good for a neutral 4-3. I guess Mudrik's confidence will be good with that goal, and Jackson's looking really good. I don't know. I was a bit unsure of him. I'd never heard of him, but good link-up play. But I'm not sure if he's ready to lead the line. You know how fans they go off pre-season is not a great deal to go off. Is a bit, but not like fully. But I don't know if he's ready, Prem ready to start for Chelsea. So maybe a striker is still what we need. But Dan, João Pedro, I thought he was very good when he came on. I mean, you saw all of this last year and previous years. What did you think? Was this exactly expected from him?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I said it before. I said it a couple of years ago when we got relegated. Obviously, I thought he'd outscore Martinelli. Turned out he didn't. We played terrible, scored 7 goals and got relegated. But even last season, obviously, when we didn't get promoted, he was our best player and probably best player in the league. In fact, the Who Scored rate, a lot of the score apps ratings, he wasn't voted the best player in the championship, but stats wise was the best player in the championship. He plays football like he's still in Brazil in the streets. He doesn't care. Was it the assist for was it Undav that scored the 3rd goal?
Fantastic.
He sent 2 or 3 of your players to the shops, and he won the penalty he won the penalty himself, and then scored the penalty.
The confidence to score that,
But yeah, no, I'm expecting big things from him. I loved him when he was at the club. Sad to see him go, but he deserves. No offence to Brighton. I said he could have gone to Liverpool in the next few years and replaced Firmino's role. He wouldn't be a direct replacement. Obviously, Liverpool fans love Bobby, but he can fill any of the 3 roles. Yeah.
With Chelsea, I'm seeing a lot of patterns of play with what Poch has already implemented. I'm falling in love with all the training videos I'm seeing. He's playing a 4-2-3-1, and it's clear to see what he wants to do in his philosophy. So what I'm seeing from Poch so far, I'm convinced I'm on the Poch hype train. I was when we got him, but now after 2 games, I'm fully on it. In terms of transfers, Caicedo is just going around in circles at the moment. We can't find a fee to agree on a fee, so I'm not sure if it's going to be more towards the 100 million mark after they saw Declan Rice go for that amount. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and if we're losing Conor Gallagher, I still think we're a couple midfielders short as well. Because we've got Andre Santos and Casadei, the Italian. Casadei looks a bit more ready than Andre Santos from what I'm seeing. I think a loan deal for one of them is needed.
Casadei's been linked with us quite heavily as well.
And Leicester as well.
He could be out. I was going to say, it's almost like a couple of years ago, well, you mentioned it before, but like a couple of years ago when you'd signed Jorginho and Kovacic. Yeah, obviously, you bought in, but you'd sold midfielders over the years, and then you hadn't signed a recognised central midfielder for 3 or 4 seasons. And now, obviously, you're back to square one. You've sold some of the players. Obviously, you bought in Enzo as a midfielder, and then it's like you've cleared out. You've lost Ruben Loftus-Cheek. You're sending a couple out on loan, and then you're bringing in Caicedo, and then you're losing Gallagher. I know they're not the same sort of player, but still a midfielder. Could plug gaps, and it's like you're bringing one in and selling one. It just doesn't fix your problem. You're just buying a better player for that position. Yeah. So when it comes to European nights, or if you go the full length in the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, it's just a whole strain again.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, as we did say a few times, I did want to clear out, but this is a full
it's a fire sale
at the moment, aren't we? I mean, in terms of midfield, especially. So I definitely think a few more midfielders need to come in. We got linked last night with Elise, and so did Man City. So that could be a potential winger coming in.
Very good signing.
Yeah, do you guys think Elise will be good for
I really like him. There was 30-ish million, I think it was as well. So for 30 million, he'd be a really good signing. I don't know how much Palace are going to want to get, obviously losing Zaha as well. I don't think they'd want to lose too many of the sort of similar players.
Yeah, and centre-back wise as well, I think maybe with Levi Colwell staying, I think we're probably set on centre-backs. It's more midfield I'm more worried about. I'm probably an extra winger and a striker. So that's where our issues are, similar to United, a striker. But it's I don't know who Poch wants. I don't know what type of striker Poch wants. He doesn't want Vlahovic from what I've seen. And is it going to be Lukaku next season?
Give him a chance. Why not? Exactly. Before you cut your losses, you might as well give him till January. If he's terrible in January, then sign a new striker in the summer.
I mean, who wants Lukaku at this point?
That's what I'm saying. Juve fans stood outside the training ground and booed him.
He wants to stay in Europe and Saudi, obviously, after in the Saudi league team.
He turned down Saudi, didn't he? So
yeah, exactly. He wants to stay in Europe. So
speaking of the Saudi league, though, are we going to go on to transfers?
Of course, we have to.
Kylian Mbappe. I have his contract breakdown here. If anybody's interested,
go for it. I want to hear it. I want to be depressed.
It's £700 million for a year because obviously next season he's been allowed to join Madrid.
On a free.
On a free. 538.3 a month, 13.3 a week, 1.9 million a day, £79,900 an hour, 1,332 euros a minute, and 22 euros a second. So whilst you're watching this episode, Mbappe could have bought all of us 15 times over. Really.
And his hourly salary is pretty good. Like, it's a very good yearly salary to end on.
Yeah, £45,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? If you're Mbappe, would you for 1 year firm it in the Saudi League?
100%.
You'd be an idiot.
I'm not saying no to that
down.
money.
Or would he go to another team for a few years and then go to Real?
No, go to Saudi for a year. He's guaranteed the money. He's set his families up for generations. Like no one in his family would have to work again, let alone the PSG money. Now he's got that, and he's guaranteed.
And it's like it's a year holiday, really.
The move. Yeah,
and his dream is fulfilled.
I don't know what the tax laws are. I don't know what the tax laws are in France, depending on obviously where he lives. You don't pay tax in Saudi. Yeah. So that is all his. Every single bit of that's his.
But would you think he's lost another year of potentially winning the Ballon d'Or? Because he's probably up in the running with probably Haaland and.
But this is the.
But
he's not going to get pulled out of the France squad. Obviously, we've got the Euros next season, and obviously he's had half a season. I know we're talking about this year, but by the time Madrid comes round, we'll have the Euros next summer, and he's going to be in the France squad. There's no doubt about that. Whether he's playing, I don't know, for Stevenage or for Al Hilal, it doesn't really matter. So he's going to score more goals, and if on paper, if it looks like he's getting close to Haaland's goal scoring records, which no doubt he will, unless everyone in that league starts buying superstars, people are going to look at it, and he's going to be touted for the Ballon d'Or. It's a stats based thing and a European competitions based thing.
He can still win the Ballon d'Or being in Saudi. He just needs to excel with France.
Yeah, that's why I said. Obviously, next year he's going to have the Madrid move and the Euros. So, and then if not, season after that, it's going to be a case of the Champions League.
Obviously, a couple Prem teams. Chavez, was United part of the list of teams interested in Mbappe? I know Tottenham were.
The Spurs were at some point, yeah.
Spurs, Chelsea, Inter, Real.
The money required to buy Mbappe is just. For starters, we're getting a player who doesn't even want to be with us. He wants his dream is Madrid. The money required is not something we can pay with the Glazers in charge. I just don't even think it's an option. It would be extraordinary. I mean, that's our next however many years set, but I don't even want to think about it because it's not happening.
And another player, then just keeping on the players that have left PSG, Messi, that free kick for Inter Miami. What did you guys think of that?
I saw a tweet and it said, like, it's like a perfectly written story, but that's not even in his top 10 moments in his career.
Probably.
Like, time after time. It's like, Messi's gone to PSG and he scores a hat-trick here and there or whatever, and he goes to a new league and scores a 92nd or 94th minute winner. It's just moment after moment, but he's had so many across the career. No football fan, I don't think, is surprised anymore. Like, it's amazing to watch, but it's lost its effect. For example...
No, it's not lost its effect.
No, okay, maybe not lost it complete, but you know what I mean? It's like it's expected, for example. I know they're not the same level of player, but when Salah came to the Premier League and scored 30-odd goals, and the season after he gets 20-odd goals, he's saying he's had a bad season. Like, if Messi keeps on putting up... If Messi scores 50 goals in a season, it's a poor season for it. Do you know what I mean? Not lost its effect, it's warped reality almost. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
He's got one of the best catalogues for debut goals. Well, not debut goals, but first goals for club. Every time his first goal has always been incredible. The Barca one, PSG was also really good, and now this. So he's just the GOAT. This is what the GOAT does.
But do you think it's a kind of like a shame he didn't come to the Prem? Like, do you reckon he still could have been playing for a Prem team at this level, or do you think it's kind of
he could, but he doesn't. He's complete. You can tell he's completed life. He's won the World Cup. What else can he do? The world doesn't revolve around England as much as because we live here. It seems like it does. You can be a complete footballer and not step foot in England, and Messi's going to prove that in his career. If he did come, it would have been a risk and it would have been interesting. If he conquered the Premier League, then there would have been no doubt. But I think there already is no doubt. He doesn't need to do anything. He has nothing to prove.
Give it 2 years when he's like 40. Give it a few years when he's 40. Do you reckon you'll see him?
I think he'll retire soon. But before Ronaldo, I think he'll retire.
I reckon they'll go at the same time.
guys, thought on Ronaldo's comments, him saying he went to Italy, then all the big players started going to. He went to the Saudi league. All the players went to Saudi league.
I
Do you
mean,
think
technically,
He's not wrong.
Well, yeah,
He's
he's
not
not wrong. He's also, I saw that thing. He was like about European football's lost its quality, and then they lost to Benfica and someone else in the space of like 4 days. That was quite funny.
That was a dumb comment, but it's true that like the money's always been there for Saudi. They can always buy these players, and they've always made these offers. But it's happening now because Ronaldo's the trigger, and he's changed it. It's good. He's a revolutionary man, and he's revolutionized football again right towards the end of his career.
not Talisca? It was Ronaldo.
Yeah, Talisca had a better season than Ronaldo, if I want to say, but he is Ronaldo. He did. Talisca was much better.
So
Was he?
Oscar going to China. Ronaldo.
Ronaldo wasn't even in the
Ronaldo
team
going
of
to
the
Saudi.
season in Saudi.
No, really?
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anything else to add, guys, in terms of transfers?
Any major transfers for you two? Because no one really cares about my club.
I'm still waiting for Caicedo. It feels like De Jong v.
I say I unfollowed Brighton on a thing of Twitter.
I did see
So
that.
that makes you feel better.
Yeah, it does a bit. Yeah, I think the Mbappe is obviously going to be taking everyone by storm.
I think I think that wraps us up, obviously, until
Oh, and Aston Villa signed Diaby from.
Diaby and Torres. They've been a couple of good sides. They're again.
Brilliant.
That's what Chelsea should be doing. They should be looking at their squad and going, okay, well, we've got Tyrone Mings and whoever else in defence. Let's buy a better one, not selling players and bringing some. Do you know what I mean? They're doing it well. It's either between them or Brighton, but it's also it could go one or two ways. They could carry on and push on, and the top 6 becomes a top 8 or a top 9 if Brentford still do all right, or they could do
I
a
think,
South.
I think Brentford will struggle without Tony.
That's what I was going to say. Or alternatively, it could go Southampton's way, and they become feeder clubs to the top 6 clubs.
I think they will be
stones.
feeder clubs. I think they will.
Give it us if one of the 2 clubs stays up there for another 18 months. If they do well this season, do all right in Europe. Excuse me, and then stay up there again. I reckon they'd be all right. I reckon they'd have enough pull to players to go, come here for a couple of years, join the project, because you can see there's an improvement. You can see there's a project. Whereas if they fall off next season, finish 12th, get knocked out in the group stages, get knocked out in the lower stages of the cup competitions, then you're a bit like, well, you've just reset 2-3 years worth of work. Whereas if they push on, they can go to players, look, come here, we're trying to build something. And
they need investment. They need like an owner, and even Newcastle's still a question mark. Despite everything that's happened, it's not assured that Newcastle are going to make it a big 7. They need to do it again for one more season.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think that these clubs, Brighton, they need investment. It's all about money, and they don't have it. Villa have a better chance, I think, than Brighton, but it's so far fetched.
Yeah, of course.
We're down to a few days now to see how the season unfolds. Was it 2.5 weeks or something? 2 weeks?
Yep. Perfect. That's a good place to round up. I mean, not too much apart from the games in terms of transfers for our teams, but yeah, tune in next week for more transfers and roundups.